Equitable education means that every learner gets a chance, including those that are most vulnerable and marginalized. As we explored earlier in this module, equitable education means that learners should not have to adapt to the system, but rather the system needs to adapt and be tailored to them and their different needs in order to embrace diversity. But what does this actually look like in practice? In this video, we are going to explore the different levels that need to be tackled from central government to the classroom, along with selected case studies of what equitable education looks like in action. Equitable education means we need to look at the entire education system. This can be at the national level in terms of policy, regional or local level, or school and classroom level to reach each individual learner. National level. At the national level, this means that national laws and policies clearly recognize the importance of equity and inclusion, as well as recognizing marginalized groups. In Thailand, for example, this has been made possible through the 2018 Equitable Education Act, which grants the right to education for all. Under the Act, an Equitable Education Fund was also set up to support children and youth with the greatest needs. This example shows us how equity can be taken seriously in education planning efforts, based on an equity and inclusion perspective that recognizes and represents marginalized groups. This also relates to education financing and how an equity perspective can help determine how the central budget for education is designed and allocated. We will look at equitable education financing in more detail in Module 3 of this online course. Data collection and monitoring efforts at the national level also need to include clear directives to segregate data by gender, wealth, language, and other variables so that it represents different groups. 14 member countries of the Pacific Island Forum made a commitment towards disability-inclusive education by developing indicators and guidelines that could reflect 3 strategic objectives: access, efficiency, quality, and effectiveness. This ensured that disability-specific data would be recorded as part of the sub-regional education management and information system in order to ensure more disability-inclusive education. The main outcome was the culturally relevant indicators for disability-inclusive education in the Pacific sub-region. The case study, including the evaluation of outcomes and lessons learned, can be found in the further reading section of this module. Regional and local level. At the regional and local levels, education authorities, for example, district or provincial education offices, are in a position to understand the unique characteristics of the context to make sure that education is relevant. As key players on the ground, local education authorities have a role in informing policy at the national level through their work with local schools. They can also ensure that national education programs and policies are implemented in order to cater to local needs. This can be in terms of geography, such as mountainous or remote areas, or it could also be in terms of language, ethnicity, religion, or culture. It could also include educational programs for girls, mother tongue education, and support for those from poorer communities to participate actively in education. Local education authorities also play a key role in data collection and monitoring, which can help to inform policy decisions at the national level to make education more equitable. In Pakistan, for example, a European Union-funded initiative supported by UNICEF and the Sindh Education and Literacy Department has helped to enroll and re-enroll girls in education. This was achieved through a mobile app aimed to develop and implement a robust school monitoring system that would ensure teacher attendance and functional facilities. These 2 aspects may not immediately appear to be causes of school dropouts among girls, but in reality, teacher attendance and facilities play a significant role in ensuring that girls attend and remain in school. This initiative found that for parents, knowing that there would be teachers present to receive students along with safe and adequate facilities such as washrooms and electricity was a key factor to be convinced to send their daughters to school. The mobile app now covers 40,000 schools and 120,000 teachers across the Sindh province and includes a number of indicators including teacher and student attendance, availability of textbooks, weekly lesson plans, and functionality of school infrastructure. Since the mobile app was implemented, teacher absenteeism has dropped and any issues with school infrastructure are immediately notified to the SIN Education and Literacy Department. At the school level, school leadership has a significant role to play in ensuring that mechanisms for equity and inclusion are in place. At the classroom level, teachers with the knowledge and skills to take a personalized approach, regardless of student background, gender, or abilities, will implement equity through teaching practices and pedagogies. For the individual learner, equitable education in practice means that diversity is taken into account. For example, children with learning difficulties would have additional support and materials to help them learn to the same level as their classmates. In Vietnam, for example, the main obstacle to inclusive education was found in a lack of human resources development. The government of Vietnam implemented a Train the Teacher program on inclusive education for teacher educators at universities and colleges across the country. The objective of the program was twofold. First, to upskill teacher educators, and second, to engage them in relevant pedagogies that could help them embed the inclusive education core curriculum into their teaching practices. A number of challenges were faced due to the lack of knowledge, skills, and experience, but the project increased confidence in participants to become inclusive teacher educators. This shows how equitable education needs to be implemented at all levels of the education system to include all learners to reach the same learning outcomes. Thank you for joining Model 1. You might like to think about what levels of the education system you work in or are involved with, and how you can help have an impact in bringing about the how of equitable education in practice. And don't forget that you can turn to the summary for an overview of what we have covered, or learn more through the further reading section.